Thanks for joining. We'll be getting started with the webinar in about 4 minutes. Also, just as a reminder, we'll be collecting emails at the end of today's session, business emails, and we'll be validating those emails to receive the coffee coupon. Thanks, everybody. Welcome for today's Back to School Sports Innovation Lab Audiences webinar. We're going to give it another minute or two as a couple folks still file in before we jump in. Welcome, welcome. Great to see a lot of familiar names here. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. My name is Gina Waldhorn. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Sports Innovation Lab. We are a data insights and analytics company that helps the world's biggest sports brands, teams, leagues, properties, sponsors understand who their future fans are and use data to go out and acquire more of them. And today we are focused on a huge upcoming opportunity, a big revenue focus for a lot of big brands and organizations out there, targeting back to school. So in just 15 minutes today, we're going to talk about what kind of data we're building our back to school audiences on top of. We're going to share a bit about what are some of the most valuable back to school audiences you should be incorporating into your programmatic buys, and talk about how you can go ahead and get started today. So I'm only going to take 15 minutes or less of your time. And by the end of that 15 minutes, you'll have everything you need to run very accurate addressable media campaigns that are going to convert your back to school prime prospects. So to get started, a quick recap, if you're not familiar with Sports Innovation Lab, what is the data on top of which that we're building these addressable audiences with? So our sports data cloud is the only data set that has a custom sports and entertainment taxonomy. Why is that important to back to school? You ask, because youth sports parents, because sports parents, because Gen Z parents, because sports and entertainment is a high value category where if you come in through the right lens, you'll be able to build audiences and uncover insights to drive higher value targets that you can go out and convert in your campaigns. And we're the only data set that is able to create that custom set of merchants and views for which you can build on top of. So our data is based and anchored in the transactions, the purchasing habits of over 140 million US consumers, where we can see everything they buy. On top of that, we have over 400 million additional targeting attributes at the individual or household level. We've got over 700 million emails, and we have over 7,000 unique merchants that we have tagged and organized and customized specific to the audiences we know you care about most and through the lens of sports and entertainment. We believe that transaction data is superior to the self-reported, to the cookie-based data. When we know that there's discrepancies of over 50% in categories when you compare deterministic to self-reported data, because we know that there's cart abandonment rates. So using cookies as your sole source of creating an audience and anchoring in who an individual is can be unreliable. And when you do have that deterministic data, you're able to create more personalized messaging that we know increases conversion rates to the tune of 20 to 30%. We also, on top of that transactional data, are bringing in first-party data sources across media and broadcast, women's sports publications and entities, CRM programs. We're the only organization to bring in non-governing bodies to build those Olympics audiences that we shared to you. And what's critical is those long-tail merchants, and that's what's included in our data. And I'll get into, again, how we get really specific on some of those long-tail merchants for the back-to-school audiences. So that's really the foundation of our data. It's a unique sports data cloud. It's anchored in transactional. It has additional first party. It's customized to sports and entertainment and the communities and categories that we know are critical to reaching that modern consumer and those elusive audiences today. So how does that come to life? Well, when you go out and today, you're going to buy, for example, a soccer fan audience. It's going to be anchored in maybe they're watching some NWSL on Saturday night on ION. Maybe it's got social media cookie data in there. They follow Tobin Heath, and broadly, you know the demographics of this individual. When you buy a soccer fan audience from Sports Innovation, it looks like this. I know exactly what leagues they follow, what teams they follow, whether they bet, how much, with whom, if they're streaming on what platform for how many months. And I also know all of the other brands that they purchase. How do we know that? Because again, we can see everything those 140 million individuals purchase. So I know if they're Dunkin' Donuts, I know if they're Macy's or Kohl's or Crayola, but then we've gone ahead and added an incremental 7,000 vendors specific to sports and entertainment. Every league, every team, every venue, every merchandise, sports betting platform. So we really have that robust picture of sports and entertainment consumers. So let's talk about how we use all of that to build back to school audiences. So the first thing is, well, how do we build a back to school audience? So we have a Sports Innovation Lab back to school parents audience available today on all the major programmatic platforms. So in order to design that audience, the first thing we did was obviously make sure that we have the right demographic underpinnings, that this is a, individual with children in the household. But even more powerful to validate and enhance that is the transactional purchases that indicate that this is a parent, right? And are they buying brands for specific age ranges, for babies, for toddlers, for teens, for tweens? For Gen Z, those are critical audiences that we know you're looking to reach when you target parents. And because we can see a parent who's purchasing Aeropostale, Scholastic, Life Touch, which is school photos, Yumble, which is meal kits for children age 6 to 12 years old, Cotton On, Starface. These are brands that when we see those purchases made by parents, we can then organize what kind of parent they are. Do they have Gen Z? Do they have a trendy tween? Do they have a toddler in the household? So validating that demographic with transactional data to build custom segments of parents is our first step, and that's what we've done. Now, to make sure that this is indeed a back to school parent, we've taken that demographic data, we've taken that transactional purchase data, and now we've specifically gone out and tagged those parents from that set who made purchases from back to school merchants. Who are back to school merchants? Office supplies, arts and crafts supplies, backpacks, and of course your big box retailers, the Walmarts, the Kohl's, the Staples. But on top of that, we also made sure that these people had to show an increase, a peak spending in those back to school merchants during the August time period. So we've now filtered down from demographics, which is what you'll get with other audiences, to validating with transactional purchases that this is a teen or a tween or a toddler or a young child or a college student, to validating that they buy back to school purchases from back to school merchants, to validating that when they spend the most, it's in the month of August. So we feel very confident and that we have one of the most deterministic audiences for this is a parent who spends money on back to school. The other thing that we're uniquely positioned to create is a youth sports parent, a youth sports back to school parent. So how do we know this is someone who invests in youth sports? Again, we're able to look at those transactional purchases from within our data set and from our consortium of first-party youth sport platforms. So I know if they registered on Team Snap. I know if they're buying gear from Play It Again Sports. I know if they're paying a registration fee to a league like a Little League or Love Volleyball. I know if they're streaming and they have a membership to the NFHS, which is the streaming network for high school sports. So again, we're also able to create this very high-value youth sports parents back to school purchasing audience, which is available for you to buy. So taking kind of all of this into our data cloud, it allows us to look at those unique merchants from youth sports parents, specific league parents, maybe it's gamer parents you're going after, college students or parents of college students, trendy teens, tweens, etc. So all of those merchants have been aggregated and tagged and organized into these unique back to school audiences that are syndicated across programmatic platforms today. So what are some of the insights that we've pulled out at looking at these specific audiences? Well, for one, we were able to find categories that specifically spike in Q3 for back to school, which validates that back to school spending behavior. So here you're looking at back to school categories against parents, and we're seeing the percent of our parental back to school audience that spent in those categories in Q1 versus Q3 when we kind of associate back to school spending to take place kind of anywhere from that, July, August, September time period. And you can see more fans are buying. So the percent change increased. And for many of the categories, for let's see, 4 out of the 6 categories, they also spend more money. So more of them are spending. And when they spend, they're increasing their dollars spent. We looked at back to school parents as sports fans to get a sense of, well, what are some of the top leagues? Back to parents spending on sports leagues. Number 1 league, MLB. Number 1 category, streaming. Those are sports streaming networks, ESPN Plus, Fubo, Willow, Flow Sports. So always interesting to note if you're looking for specific parents that are fans of specific leagues, we've got that. And then we wanted to take a look at youth sports parents and really understand, are they worth more? And there are specific categories where youth sports parents outspend just parents. Office Max, Office Depot, Apple, Microsoft, and Stanley, almost double the number of youth sports parents are buying Stanley Cups versus just your standard parent audience. And more youth sports parents are spending more per consumer in those higher priced categories like Apple and Microsoft. And again, I'd argue Stanley is a premium cup. And for Target, we also wanted to look at where might their most valuable audience be. So MLB parents are worth more to Target. If you're buying media for Target, MLB parents of teens spend on average $976 at Target per year versus just your standard audience of teens spending about $200 less per year. Same for babies and toddlers. So again, if you're going out and you're buying media for big box for Target, an MLB filtered parents of teen audience, higher value than just your standard parents of teens. What about fans of women's sports? We're always talking about how high value women's sports fans are. Well, we looked at parents of teens and parents of toddlers and babies, and we compared them to those same parents who were women's sports fans and just, gen pop of those parents. And again, we found that fans of women's sports who are parents spend 30% more at Macy's, Kohl's, Target than simply parents of teens, and 40% more for women's parents who are also women's sports fans, spend 40% more than parents of just babies and toddlers. So again, if you're going to run an audience by layering on fans of women's sports who are back to school parents, you have a greater chance of finding a higher value consumer. So right now we've got a set of about 30 different audiences live. We have our general back to school parents and teachers. We've cut by Gen Z sports fans, and you can pick, I used MLB and baseball as an example, but we've got all major teams in sports. We have our youth sports fans audiences. Again, you can sort and pick by specific sport, which includes those purchasing the gear and the merchandise and the leagues. And then we have sports parents, for example, women's sports. So you can buy an audience of sports parents who love women's sports or sports parents who love the NBA. So these are all different criteria by which these custom audiences are identifying a higher value parent that will deliver we believe, in your conversions for your programmatic campaigns. So we also have Gen Z audiences live. We have the youth sports audiences live. And here's just a quick snapshot. We'll go ahead and make this recording available, and we'll send all of these specific audiences in an email. But you can go onto any major programmatic platform. I'll go ahead and show you where, from LiveRamp, Trade Desk, Amazon Ads, Google DV360. Head on over to those programmatic platforms, search Sports Innovation Lab, and you'll be able to find our back to school audiences. We also have an audience desk set up. We'll pop it in the chat, audiences@sportsilab.com. And all of these audiences are available and can be pushed to anywhere that takes, a programmatic and addressable audience, from digital out of home to streaming to social to display. Again, I'll just kind of reiterate, we're right at the 15-minute mark. These are deterministic. They're based on what they actually buy. They cover the complete sports and entertainment and brand level landscape. And they've been built with IP in our sports data cloud that has been proven to increase ROAS by over 200% and lift conversion rates. So thank you guys for joining today. We love to kind of summarize it and make this quick for you. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll right now. Go ahead and answer that poll. Shoot us your email. And for our brand and agency attendees today, we want to thank you for spending 15 minutes with us with a coffee break, with a coffee from Starbucks. So fill out the report. Shoot us your email, reach out to audiences@sportsilab.com if you have any questions. We'll be happy to help you. And if you need a custom audience, we're happy to customize these audiences by sport, by merchant, by brand, by churn, by behavior, by community, by demographic. Let us know. We're doing that for a lot of big Fortune 500 brands today, and we'd love to customize and help you guys drive those back to school sales. So thanks for joining us today, and stay tuned for more of these coffee webinars in the weeks to come. Thanks, everybody.